If you're a big fighting game fan like me, then you've definitely heard of the rumor mill concerning all sorts of games within the genre. From fake screenshots depicting Alex in Ultra Street Fighter 4, Tekken 7 coming to Switch with Ganondorf as a playable fighter, and the iconic photoshopped Little Mac debate from back in the Smash 4 days, there is a seemingly endless amount of online discussions about fighting game leaks and rumors, but I wanted to rein it in a bit and focus on one game in particular. Marvel vs. Capcom and online rumors go hand in hand because of the series' explosive nature involving many characters, and I wanted to take us all on a trip down memory lane to a much simpler time. A time where details related to Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and its ultimate follow-up weren't set in stone and there was still some room for discussion. Some of these Marvel 3 rumors and myths were obviously fake even back in the day, but others seem much more realistic and actually had a few people fooled. Hell, the final one is something that I actually believe to be 100% true, so get ready as we prepare to examine Marvel 3 rumors and myths. Ever since its updated re-release was announced at PSX in late 2016, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 had finally broken free from the curse of last-gen console exclusivity, and you can now easily purchase the game on Steam, PS4, or Xbox One, allowing a whole new group of players to experience the title. That wasn't the last time a brand new version of Marvel 3 was discussed, however, as on the 6th of March 2018, Nintendo Life reported, using thenerdmag.com as their source, that footage of the title running on the Nintendo Switch had leaked onto YouTube, and you can even see the Switch's home screen at the end of the video. Capcom was no stranger to releasing high-profile fighting games for the system, so all signs pointed to this version being legit. After all, Ultimate Marvel 3 was already on every other platform, and it's not like it's a large or demanding game to run, so if the PS Vita could run the title with no major issues, the Switch could easily do it too. Browsing through the article's comment section reveals that people were definitely open to the idea of Marvel vs. Capcom finally making its way onto Nintendo's console, but there were also plenty of skeptics. The leaked video contains unique UI icons for the Switch's buttons in the game's menus, and I don't think that they look out of place. They move in accordance to their surrounding UI assets, and they even fade out properly when a loading screen occurs, hinting that this video was real. Even after analyzing the video myself in the beginning, I couldn't spot any major inconsistencies with Marvel 3's visuals, audio, or gameplay, and it does look identical to how it would perform on any other system. Hindsight is 2020 though, and I now believe that the reason behind the Switch footage looking so similar to other versions of Marvel is because this was actually footage recorded from the PC version. Capturing some basic gameplay in OBS and editing the Switch's icons over the menus wouldn't be that hard to do when it would definitely fool most people, myself included, at least at first glance. Even so, if you pay really close attention, there are multiple little details that prove this footage to be 100% fake. Firstly, if you look here at the 5-second mark, we can see that the Joy-Con's button layout is used to represent how you have to advance the menu. But when the person in the video goes back to the main menu at the 18-second mark, did you see it? The buttons are completely different, and they now resemble the Xbox 360's D-pad. Next up is the Switch's home menu itself. I wouldn't have noticed this because of the footage being really low quality, but many of the article's commenters point out that not only is the battery icon in the top right green instead of white, but the game's title is simply too large and it doesn't scroll properly to the left. This would all be enough to easily debunk the video, but I also happened to notice another issue that I didn't see mentioned in the comments. In the video, there is a noticeable amount of input delay between when you compare button presses to character actions. The PS4 version of Marvel 3 received some flack over the years for its 6 frames of input delay, but the delay in the Switch video seems much more severe and would make the game borderline unplayable. I actually analyzed the video frame by frame in my editing software to quantify the delay, and I found that there is a total of 17 frames between the player pressing a button and the character acting. I remember when there was an uprising in the streets over Street Fighter 5 having 8 frames of delay, so 17 frames would probably result in the assassination of a Capcom employee. This sounds horrible, but part of me wishes this input delay were true just so we could get another iconic Chris G rant.
So now when Nova comes at you, he's like, grab.
My plate?
Then you're like, damn, I tech? Nope, you definitely just got bodied.
As for the person behind the video, well, I tried my best to find information relating to their identity, but I was unable to find anything conclusive. The original streamable video upload has simply been removed, and the YouTube video is hosted on Nintendo Life's channel. Overall, this leak wasn't anything too crazy, although younger me in high school who had just started properly learning Marvel 3 around this time in 2018 was disappointed to find out that it was fake, but it wasn't a huge blow to my will to live. This was yet another fake leak relating to a Nintendo product, but we're only gonna get way crazier from here on out. Way back in the day, when Capcom were constantly releasing title updates, many fans assumed that an eventual Super Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 HD Remix I Have a Crush on My Sister version would be announced shortly after the November release of Ultimate Marvel 3, less than a year after its older brother. The reason for this stems from posts made on the now defunct Capcom forums about a potential update called Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Uncanny Edition. These posts have since been taken down, and the Wayback Machine unfortunately doesn't have an archive of the page, so I can't actually view the original source of these claims, but I did find a message board discussing the details, as well as an article from DualShockers published on July 5th, 2012. A recent rumor has suggested that Capcom is working on and will soon release a new version of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, titled Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Uncanny Edition. The announcement of the title is expected to come this Friday during EVO 2012. The following features/adjustments are rumored to be included in the new version of the game. 4 characters: Mega Man, Cyclops, Surfbot, and Ant-Man. 2 modes: Survival and Time Attack. No changes to the heads-up display. Unique features of the PS Vita version of Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 will be added to the Uncanny Edition. New moves and outfits for unspecified characters. Additionally, the Uncanny Edition will allegedly be available next month digitally only for a price somewhere around $15, with a physical edition to follow in September for around $40. Capcom has demonstrated a severe proclivity to re-releasing the same game numerous times, so a new edition of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is not such a far-fetched idea. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, so let's go in order. New characters would absolutely be the main draw of a fighting game title update, and while Cyclops, Mega Man, and Ant-Man would be really welcome additions to Marvel 3, I highly doubt that Capcom would include Surfbot again, so I consider this as being the first major red flag. Secondly, come on man, only 4 new characters, and one of them is Surfbot? That alone proves it to be fake, come on. Also, anyone in the early 2010s making fake Capcom leaks would be sure to include Mega Man, so his inclusion here is a bit too on the nose. Survival and Time Attack are common modes in fighting games, but after Capcom removed them for Super Street Fighter 4, I don't know why they would add these modes back in another one of their title updates. No changes to the HUD makes sense, I guess, and unique PS Vita features wouldn't be a huge selling point of an Uncanny Edition. Come to think of it, the only exclusive features that this version of the game had was the ability to play the PS3 version using the Vita as a controller and the ability to download replays. The former obviously wouldn't be included, but a replay viewer that allows players to view hitboxes would be huge for documenting character attack data, so I really wish this part were true. Releasing the update in both digital and physical formats is possible, as that's pretty much how Ultra Street Fighter 4 was distributed, and I do agree with the idea that Capcom would have released even more versions of Marvel 3 over the years. What concerns me the most about this whole debacle is that the DualShockers article never actually lists the original source behind the rumors, and since the Capcom forums are down, I can't view them for myself. Doing a Google search for Uncanny Edition results in another rumor with the same name made about Marvel Infinite of all games, so finding information about Ultimate Marvel 3's Uncanny Edition rumor is quite difficult. But then, I stumbled across an article that contained all the details I was looking for, and it blew the whole story apart. Posted on Cheat Code Central of all places, an article was posted on July 9th, 2012 that stated the following: Capcom has decided that it will no longer be patching Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. That means no new characters, no new stages, and most importantly, no new balance patches. They have no further DLC planned either, and do not plan to add any more characters to the mix, and here's the big part. They also assured us that the rumors of an Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Uncanny Edition were entirely false. I gotta tell you, finding an article as obscure as this sent my dopamine receptors into overdrive, and it makes a wonderful conclusion to this myth. To recap, there was never an Uncanny Edition, there was never meant to be Surfbot in Marvel 3, and Mega Man Erasure still continues to this day. But what if we explore something that genuinely had the possibility to be true? As the home of mental illness, Twitter is no stranger to video game discussion, and if we go all the way back to 2010, we can find one inactive account containing information relating to the then unreleased vanilla Marvel 3. The backstory behind this is that originally, a separate account under the name of Clenix22 was also leaking information on Twitter, and the account was deleted shortly after. After this deletion, this account popped up out of nowhere, and they claimed that Clenix22 was telling the truth, and they also provided some new information of their own. What makes this account particularly interesting is that 99% of their posts contain information about Marvel 3, and it's not usual stuff like, "Woohoo, I can't wait to play a Shanko, I would hate it if she were low tier." Rather, this user posted highly specific and detailed information about Marvel 3's content. Things like so-and-so appear in this character's ending, and this team will have an Easter egg associated with them, and I can imagine that this would have been quite exciting back before launch. However, one of the final series of posts made by this user reads as follows: I have a very, very important announcement to make. Everything I've been telling you people for the past 2 days is bullshit. I have no credibility, absolutely no reason to believe me, but you did anyway. It's ridiculously easy to fake. Next time, why don't you actually think for a few damn minutes before you trust a leak is real? I mean, he kind of has a point. All you need to spread false leaks online is an internet connection and an imagination, and in the wise words of K-Brad,
anything in this video is fake as fuck.
However, this case isn't as open and shut as you may think. Despite the leaker flat out admitting that he was just faking it the whole time, he was able to successfully predict specific information regarding the game's character roster. Information so specific that I highly doubt that some random person on Twitter could have just thought it up one day, just, randomly. And Game Rant even reported about these accurate predictions in an article from December 16th, 2010. The remaining Marvel characters are Phoenix, Sentinel, and Taskmaster. Okay, look, Phoenix and Sentinel were really highly probable candidates to appear in Marvel 3, especially Sentinel, but Taskmaster? He's a bit more obscure, but sure, maybe this was just a lucky guess. The remaining Capcom characters are Shenko, Hagar, and Akuma. These guys had a super high chance of appearing in Marvel 3, but Shenko? She's never been internationally popular like Morrigan and Felicia, and with both of them making an appearance in the final game, any fake leaker would normally write, I don't know, John Talbane is the new Darkstalkers rep. Galactus is the final boss. This one is also pretty specific, but you can see Galactus' silhouette in the game's reveal trailer right at the end, so I could see a faker easily getting this right. But here's the kicker. Akuma and Taskmaster are hidden characters. Okay, this is the one that really made me pay attention to this Twitter account. If you aren't familiar with vanilla Marvel 3, there are 4 characters you have to unlock, with Akuma and Taskmaster acting as 2 of them. This is such a specific detail that it makes me partially believe this leaker genuinely had some information about the title's hidden content. I can't imagine someone could correctly guess that these 2 particular characters would need to be unlocked when the final game launched in early 2011, but maybe I'm reading into it too much. Many of the account's other tweets regarding leaks were all proven fake when vanilla released, but it was really fun going back and reading through them all. Extra cameos and character endings sound awesome, and I wish that some of these were actually true, but as the original poster said before, they were just making false information to deceive other Twitter users just for fun, I guess. Even today, I still think it's quite interesting that a random person online just one day accurately predicted details about vanilla Marvel 3, even if their departing messages were kind of unnecessarily aggressive. It wouldn't be right if I didn't discuss the iconic Dr. Octopus and Frank West situation in vanilla Marvel 3, and even though we've all heard about it before, I'll provide a brief recap so we're all up to speed. Essentially, both of these beloved figures were planned to be in Marvel 3 from day one, but due to a whirlwind of technical issues, they both had to be scrapped. The former was extremely hard to program due to his 8 robot arms, and they raised a lot of issues. Would Dr. Octopus use them to move? How would he incorporate them into his moveset? How long would they be? Would he take damage if the opponent struck one of the arms and not the good Doctor himself? Would they increase the size and speed of his character model? I could keep going on and on and on, but you get the point by now. According to Marvel modder Zeno on Twitter, Dr. Octopus and his robot arms would have taken up 2 separate character slots in the game's files, so that alone tells you how much work Capcom would have had to put into him. In an Event Hub's article dated October 17, 2012, they report that former Capcom community manager Christian Svensson replied to fans asking to see any development information relating to the character by saying that, well, since Dr. Octopus was so incomplete, there would be nothing acceptable to show to the public. Call me crazy, but I don't think that Capcom would show Doc Ock even if he was 100% complete with only a few minor bugs here and there simply because, well, he was cut. Not to mention, Capcom don't own the rights to Dr. Octopus, so this decision would most likely be up to Marvel. For many years, this case was considered closed permanently. But after the game's producer, Ryota Nitsuma, made a series of tweets in 2016, discussion behind the character restarted. Speaking of characters that didn't make the cut, the biggest one of all was a certain enemy of Spider-Man's who has a bunch of arms coming out of his back. He wasn't just a candidate, we worked on him for a very long time. He even has character art and a theme song we had to cut from the game. The aforementioned Zeno also revealed some exciting details in September of 2023 as a result of an early build of Marvel 3 being found. Dr. Octopus's character portrait and silhouette were unearthed, along with files relating to his in-game name. Although his actual character model and completed theme song have never been found and shared publicly, this new discovery is huge, and it made the discussions behind Dr. Octopus even louder. Moving on to Frank West now, the Dead Rising protagonist was even featured in promotional material for the game, so what were the technical issues that led to him being removed? Well, originally, Frank was supposed to be very similar to his Tatsunoko vs. Capcom depiction, and unused voice lines in the files of Ultimate Marvel 3 prove this to be true.
Real Mega Buster! From behind! You better get out of here! Heads up! Right on, something I can use.
Frank can spawn zombies at will in this title, and now that I think about it, he's a lot like Jill in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 due to his summoning abilities. It's believed that major frame rate issues involving his zombies, especially when playing online, caused him to be scrapped because Capcom couldn't figure out how to solve these issues in time for the game's release. His Ultimate Marvel 3 depiction still contains zombies, but in a much more linear fashion, and they don't stay on screen for as long as they do in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Zeno also found a brand new piece of art relating to Frank in Vanilla's game files, and although this is nothing major, I still thought it was really cool. On the topic of cut characters, let's jump into the final rumor. Oh man, this is the big one. Okay, I'm confident that we all know about the iconic list of cut characters from Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and there's also this really cool video on YouTube you can watch for more details if you're interested. I bring this up to highlight not the character list, but the source of the information. Originating from the Gaming Leaks and Rumours subreddit, a now deleted Reddit account posted a staggering list of characters who, despite being considered for the title, never made the cut for a wide variety of reasons. Towards the end of this list, we can find a link that redirects us to a detailed comment on our Kappa, and despite how revealing it is, I haven't seen anyone talking about this comment before. Posted by Reddit user slib_, a crap ton of obscure Marvel 3 information is contained here, and I believe it provides a very insightful discussion regarding the decisions made by Capcom and Marvel behind the scenes. This Reddit post is super long, but I'm gonna read it all just so you have a complete understanding of its contents. I was at the panel for Vanilla MVC3 back in San Diego Comic-Con 2010. Nitsuma mentioned that one of his favorite characters to create was Emma Frost for Marvel, but not long into developing her, Marvel had another idea. I assume this was part of their push for Phoenix, which S-Kill said Marvel came up with the entire Phoenix/Dark Phoenix gameplay concept, later confirmed to be the quote-unquote mind-melting character he was referring to pre-release. It was also at this panel that Nitsuma mentioned that each stage was tied to a character, which ties into another point. Not long after the game was announced, a list of characters was taken out of the source of the page of the official website. When Tatsunoko vs. Capcom Ultimate All-Stars was officially announced, the same day, a roster was pulled from the US website, which ended up being the final roster down to the T. This list included characters like Magneto, Storm, Arthur, Hagar, and Tronbon well before their release. Those are easy enough to expect, but it also had Taskmaster, X-23, Shenko, Trish, and the absence of any version of Mega Man, much harder characters to predict. It also had characters we know are being worked on but cut, such as Juggernaut, Frank West, Mr. Fantastic, old costumes for Frank West and Iron Man being Chuck Green and War Machine, Emma Frost before the aforementioned Comic-Con panel, and the only one unaccounted for was Elektra. Given the accuracy of unrevealed characters known to have been worked on before being dropped, and the way it was leaked previously being corrected, coupled with the comment that every stage was tied to a character and the hand hideout stage being the sole exception, it's very likely that this was at one point the quote-unquote final roster in the start of development, and that Elektra was in Marvel's roster. Yeah, I mean, if this ended up happening, the character roster would have looked very different, and I can imagine that the lack of iconic characters like Sentinel would have been a major shock to the fanbase. Characters being leaked from website information being uploaded too early still happens in the modern era of fighting games, and I vividly remember hearing that Raven was in Tekken 8 from specific URL links that were found by excited fans long before launch. The initial website data mine revealed a roster that looks like this, and although it's similar to the final game, there are plenty of characters here that never made it into the final product. There has been no official comments from either Marvel or Capcom, but I'm confident that this was an early roster, back when the game was basically TVC2, before Marvel made requests or changed positions on other characters. There's only one deviation with the Capcom side of the roster, and we know Frank West's more TVC-inspired moveset they had planned for Vanilla killed online and had to rework him, hence Sea Viper being rushed in, and every character not in the game on the Marvel side of the roster was confirmed to be worked on at one point. Technically save Elektra, but the hand hideout stage along with the every stage is for a character comment has me convinced. It was leaked the same way as the completely accurate Tatsunoko vs. Capcom Ultimate All-Stars roster, and it was the correct size of the Vanilla Marvel 3 launch roster. If these were all guesses, they were very lucky guesses. If all of that wasn't enough, the creator of this comment returned in the form of a future edit to add details relating to even more characters. Luke Cage. Frank Thierry said on Twitter that if they included all the planned characters on each side they wanted instead of the 6 on each side for Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Luke Cage would have been included on the Marvel side. Cyclops. When asked if there were any new characters they wanted but Marvel said no to, Nitsuma just said yes, then mimed a visor across his eyes and drew an X over his chest with his fingers. Juggernaut. Was worked on, but Marvel eventually said they could use Sentinel or Juggernaut after S-Kill basically pestered Marvel every day for a year about Sentinel. S-Kill pushed for Sen due to the competitive legacy. Mr. Fantastic was kept later than Human Torch due to him quote-unquote using technology to supplement his moveset. I assume this means using his inventions in his moveset, but Marvel put their foot down on Skrull, instead reiterating that for a team game, they'd rather all of the Fantastic Four or none of them, and Skrull used all of their powers. Okay, look, it sucks but that Marvel flat out denied Cyclops a spot on the roster, and I'm not sure why. He was in the first 3 X-Men movies, and plenty of iconic X-Men stories over the years, so his exclusion still feels wrong, and I would have loved to have seen how beastly Juggernaut would have been in X-Factor. It's really easy to find early footage of Marvel 3 online, and seeing as how universal air dashes and damage values being presented on screen were cut from the final game, I do believe that Marvel 3 was a lot more like Tatsunoko vs. Capcom early in its development. Honestly, I 100% believe this post as it makes too much sense in my mind. Stages being dedicated to certain characters makes perfect sense, and as there are no Daredevil reps in Vanilla, or even Ultimate for that matter, Hand Hideout heavily indicates that Elektra would have shown up here, not to mention the aforementioned characters with website data. There's a lot more I could say, but in the interest of time, I'll leave it at this. It sucks how Cyclops didn't make it in, and it sucks that Elektra didn't make it in, but boy, was Capcom cooking when they decided Beautiful Joe was gonna be in the game. Oh yeah! And with that, we're at the end of our journey. I'm sure you can find other rumors and myths relating to Marvel vs. Capcom 3 online, but I felt that these 4 were the most interesting, and if you know of any others I missed, feel free to leave them in the comments. The final rumor pains me the most, as I think that Elektra, War Machine, Luke Cage, etc. would all be killer additions to a modern Marvel vs. Capcom game, and we can only imagine how beautiful they would look in motion. With tensions between Marvel and Capcom essentially at an all-time low, I genuinely believe that a potential Marvel vs. Capcom 4 will happen one day, and hopefully a few of the characters I mentioned throughout this video will show up to kick some butt. It was good fun reading through old articles and forum posts surrounding these myths and rumors, and I learned quite a bit about the game, and I hope you did too. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you very, very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Okay, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.